Welcome. My name is Jose Melendez, Campaign Director for the Taxpayer Protection Project at TPPF, and today we're talking about taxpayer empowerment. Our focus will be on local government spending and tax reform. A story we've seen play out in recent sessions at the legislature is the state lowers your taxes by passing tax relief measures at the legislature to then send down to our local governments, but your property tax bills continue to go up. Let's learn why. On that note, I'm delighted to introduce my guest, who's no stranger at being at the front lines defending liberty. Today we have former Alvin City Council member Joel Castro. Joel, welcome to the show.
Jose, thanks for having me. Appreciate all the work you're doing. You're doing the Lord's work, so thank you. Excited to be here.
Right back at you. So Joel, you served 3 terms in City Council, but during that tenure, you also spent a lot of time at the Capitol advocating for good policy. Start by telling us your story, how you got elected into public office, and tell us about your experience advocating at the legislature.
Yeah, I was just a young grasshopper. I was 18. I graduated from high school, and I was really upset to hear like a lot of my friends were really excited to leave Alvin. I was like, Alvin has like a lot of place. I realized my American dream here in Alvin, my parents have, like, this is not that bad of a place. And I decided, like, if I really wanted to see change in Alvin, like, I shouldn't just post and like tweet about it or, post something on Facebook. I should really be involved in the process. So we created a vision, laid out a plan, and decided to run for office. I didn't even tell my parents I filed for office until after I did it. Like, I did, and it threw them. They're like, you really want to do it?
How did you even find out how to file your name for to hold elected office?
Yeah. So in high school was involved, like, I did everything in high school, and I was one day at an event, a community event where the mayor was at, and I was just about to turn 18, and I was going to be able to vote in the May election, and I know he was running for re-election. And so I went up to him, I said, Mayor, why should I vote for you? And he was so shocked that an 18-year-old asked him why should I vote? And so he told me, like, this is why you should vote for me. And he really made it specific to an 18-year-old, which I thought was really cool. And I was like, that's awesome. I was like, if there's any way I could help out in your campaign, I'd love to help out. And I've kind of always had an interest in politics. Like, I went to Texas Boys State. I did all the the things. And like, I remember watching Bill O'Reilly with my dad like every night. And my dad yelling at the TV. And I'm thinking like, oh, why the heck is he yelling at the TV? And it's like, because Bill O'Reilly's riling him up. And so always kind of been interested in politics. And I just realized everything is local. Everything is local. So through getting involved in the mayor's re-election campaign, kind of just stuck there, got involved in the party, got involved in just local grassroots activism, and decided hey, I'm not going off to college. I'm staying here doing community college. I might as well just throw my name in the ring and just lay out a vision that I think would be good for Alvin. And the people elected me. So elected me at 18, and I quickly realized when I was there at 18 that first of all, I was the only person not drawing a Social Security check. So I was we needed younger people involved, but also a lot of this debt that we're issuing. I realized that one of the debt, they said, oh, this is a debt for paying 2040. It's a 2040 debt, and I asked well, what's 2040? What do you mean by that? We'll pay it off in 2040. Dude, my kids, that's literally generational debt. That we are issuing. This is stuff my kids and grandkids will be affected by. And will they actually reap the benefits of this? Probably not. So I quickly realized that we need to have these people we need to have younger people involved in the process, but also we need to be involved in the legislative process as well. City council members have we represent our constituents in City Hall and the state legislature. So I got involved, and now working with Americans for Prosperity full time. We've have a grassroots army all across Texas where we've helped champion on education reform, and now we have this big plan laid out for property tax reform and really delivering property tax reform for all Texans to make freedom bigger in Texas.
That's great. Let's shift gears to, you mentioned local debt.
Yes, sir.
So bond elections, local debt have grown significantly over the last couple of years.
Yep.
Do you think, in fact, I don't know if you've heard this, but over $500 billion worth of local government debt is currently being incurred by the state of Texas.
Yeah.
That means all local governments across Texas have incurred that much debt at this point in time. That's a mind-boggling number.
Yeah.
And so to that fact, do you think our local governments are spending responsibly, or do we need to rein them in with certain reforms?
Yeah. So it's an interesting question because there's two sides to every story, right?
Yeah.
Everyone wants to live in a big, beautiful city. Everybody wants to live in a town where they can feel like they can, they can drive to work without having to get their truck realigned, or they can let their kids walk to school, right? Like we want those things. Those things cost money. Mm-hmm. But what we're seeing is a lot of governments are spending money on frivolous things, right? Like the intentions are good, but are we actually getting what we pay for? Is the return on investment what the taxpayers need and frankly like what they deserve, right? One of the things that I thought about, I think it was around my second term on council, I was doing some reading on something and the budget was coming up and I decided, dude, I don't know if I could vote for this budget. And I believe it was around the COVID era. Mm-hmm. And I heard something about someone saying government of the people by the people. And I was reading this thing about it. It was like this theory. But then I realized if we're a government of the people by the people for the people, mainly people they pictured that with federal government. But I started thinking about local government because everything's local, right? Like a government of the people by the people for the people. If our people are having to stretch their dollar or having to figure out if they can pay for their kids' Little League or not, figure out if they can go on that vacation, if they're finding ways to pinch pennies and make ends meet, why is the government not doing the same? Why are the government, in fact, doing the opposite? Mm-hmm. It seems like when our taxpayers are finding ways to save money, the governments are finding ways to spend more of their money. I just don't think that's inherently right. I feel like the taxpayers deserve to live in a city where they know that their tax dollars are being used properly. So 100%, we have to find ways to rein in local control or rein in local spending. And there's so many innovative ways we can do that. Mm-hmm. But what was important is having those conversations now, saying hey, look, we know these things cost money, but let's talk about infrastructural needs versus recreational wants, the essentials versus the recreational. And let's just say for my area specifically, in the Alvin area, we're growing. I think the numbers came out a few years ago that we were growing about a classroom a week. Just our school just growing a classroom a week full of kids, right? That's a lot of people. Mm-hmm. That's like a classroom a week full of families coming into our community. We have to find ways to improve our roads, improve our infrastructure, improve our water, things that our government's supposed to deliver on. We should not be focusing on rec centers. We should not be focusing on things that people really aren't essential needs of the government. In fact, the private sector can actually provide instead of the government. And so that's really what we need to focus on is the essential needs versus the recreational wants.
Shifting more into the legislature. So one thing we say around here at TPPF quite mm-hmm. often is after tax relief, we need to guard those gains. What we mean by that is, the legislature this past session passed a $10 billion tax relief package, mm-hmm. sending those monies down to the local governments. Yep. But as soon as the ink wasn't even dry on the bill, before local governments started thinking of creative ways to start abusing those dollars.
Yep.
Whether it's tax hikes, bond elections, you name it. What can the state legislature do to guard those gains?
Yeah, it seems like they're always going to find a way to spend their money, right? Mm-hmm. They're always going to find innovative ways to try to get money. I was driving down one day down the road in Lake Jackson, or before you go to Lake Jackson, Texas, they have a big old statue, Stephen F. Austin, and I was already on one. I was with a buddy of mine, and we were complaining about something taxes, and I just thought I saw Sam Houston, and I thought not Sam Houston, Stephen F. Austin. I saw Stephen F. Austin, and I thought the story of him, right? The father of Texas, he brought 300 families, 300 people, the whole 300 down to Texas to settle, to live the American dream, to create the Texas miracle. He started that, right? He would have never thought that one day the ancestors of those families would be taxed out of their homes, but they are. There are people being taxed out of their homes all throughout Texas. They can't afford to live there. So we have to have safety nets in place so people can be able to live the Texas miracle. In Alvin, I thought this was replicated throughout all cities, but I found out that it's not, that we have a balanced budget. Like, it's in our charter that we have to have a balanced budget. We have to be able to propose a balanced budget. Then I quickly realized that other cities don't have that. Then you start asking the questions, well, why is that? Like, why do you not, if, like I said earlier, we're supposed to be a government of the people, by the people, for the people. Most everyone lives off a balanced budget. I'm sure you don't spend more than what you earn. I definitely don't. Why isn't the government doing the exact same? So how about we have all cities, have a balanced budget to be able to provide a better services for their constituents? I think another thing we could do to guard the gains, so you say, is have more Texans involved in the process. We always want more people to have a say. And you look at the May elections, where a lot of these bonds are approved, millions of dollars in bonds. You talked about $500 billion in debt that's across local. A lot of that was either passed without voter approval or a voter approval in a May election, where less than 10%, in a lot of cases, less than 10% of the voter population actually approves of.
Especially when you hold an election in May of an odd year.
Yes.
Where you just need, if it's a school board election, you just need the administrators to show up, or school staff.
Send out an email to your school staff saying, hey, by the way, there's an election. Yeah, exactly. And so, like, moving all those elections to, like the first Tuesday of November, where every American knows that's election day, like, that's more Texans involved in the process. That's more people being involved, like what's happening in their city. Like, that creates investments. Like, people feel invested in their own town. That brings up community pride. That brings up people having to, like, have more say in the government. Like, we want that. So, like, let's just move all those bond elections. Let's move all those bond elections to November. Have people more involved in the process, because we can never go wrong with having more Texans involved. We mentioned the debt, non-voter approved debt, right? Certificate of obligations.
Good point.
But that stuff, that will hurt anybody. I'll give you an example of certificate of obligations. So in my town, there was an old YMCA building, and some people came to us like, hey, would the city like to buy it? And we had some members of city staff and city council saying, yeah, like, we'll be interested in buying this YMCA. So the reason why they wanted to sell is because, like, it just wasn't making money, like, it wasn't generating income, like, it just wasn't working right. So, like, I guess, government can do it better. Like, I guess that was the mindset, right? Which I don't think that's ever worked out well. But they wanted to buy this rec center, or create a rec center, buy the building, create a rec center that would increase our debt by almost a third, or about a third. So it increased the city debt, which, by the way, the taxpayers' debt, by nearly a third. Now, at the end of the day, after we had all the debate, should we put it up to election? Should we not? At the end of the day, they decided not put it up to election. We'll have a vote, split vote. 4 people on the council decided to approve this debt that increased the taxpayers' debt by about a third. So 4 people decided that. Now, by the way, now this rec center is open. Less than 5% of the population are members of this, because they got to charge people to go to this. So 5% of the population utilizes this rec center. 100% of the population pays for it, and it directly competes with small businesses in our town. Like, is that good use of non-voter approved debt? Like, what I like to liken to is just like a debt is like a credit card, right? You wouldn't have someone open up an American Express card on your behalf, or Discovery card on your behalf. Why are we allowing the government to do the same? Like, shouldn't we have approval on that when it comes to these spendings that is not an essential? It's not an essential need.
And
there's a recreational
to your point,
wants.
the original intent of certificates of obligation is for essential stuff, emergencies, but seemingly local governments, and there's many examples out there, El Paso, Amarillo, that have used this tool, this financial tool, in order to circumvent voters.
Yep. 100%.
Right, to get their pet projects across the finish line.
Yeah. And it's like, I don't understand why that's like, to your point, there's cases where, like, emergency, like, God forbid, a hurricane passes, or a flood, or, a fire out in West Texas. Like, we have to be able to, to pay for those things, get infrastructure back to normal. Like, there's a place for that, but it's being abused.
Correct.
Right. And it almost seems like you have to be able to you have to spend time away from your family to be able to fight those things. Like, that's sad. When we're having to make people force them out of their own homes, out of the comfort of their own homes, to be able to fight a tax hike or incurring a debt. Like, that's just, I think that's just inherently, that's just a sad thing. Like, why would we make it something difficult for more people? That's their money to figure out how it should be better spent. So 100%, there's things we got to do to rein in this, and the state legislature is doing it. Americans for Prosperity, TPPF, working on ways to be able to deliver for taxpayers. But man, there's just so many avenues how we can deliver and really be a champion for all taxpayers throughout Texas.
Absolutely, and we'll keep hitting away at the legislature on these reforms. Yeah. One more reform and final question for you. So last couple of sessions, local governments have spent millions and millions of dollars on contract lobbyists to then send them over here to the Capitol, mainly to advocate against people's interests.
Yeah.
So my question to you is, do you think it's wise for these cities, counties to be spending these dollars on these contract lobbyists, and is it a good return on investment?
Yeah. Jose, I'm asking you a question. Do you think, I'm going to interview you now.
Sure.
Do you think, so I served on council at 3 terms. Mm-hmm. How many times do you think a taxpayer fund lobbyist ever reached out to me? From any of these organizations, these 3-letter organizations that that they represent?
Never.
Not once. Not a hello, hi, how are you doing? Not like nothing. They never once asked how they can make Alvin a better place. Mm-hmm. Never want, like, even driving through, like, going to the beach. They never got a phone call and say, hey, I'm driving through town. Let's go get lunch. Let's support a small business. Like, nothing. But they're advocating on our behalf. Just weird, right? I was at one of these trainings one day, and they were, I can't remember all the details of this, but like I remember them talking something about chickens. Like they were like on one, like the state legislature, like how dare they, like they're trying to put chickens in everyone's yard, and like how dare they like regulate this? Like we need to be able to ban chickens in someone's yard. And there's some other things that they were talking about, and I was in my mind, I just thought. And by the way, just a newly elected council member, it's like these people have a monopoly. Like so, like you got all the trainings to go through them. So I'm sitting down, I'm thinking, like, well, shoot, my neighbor has chickens. I like her chickens. I like her. And I like the eggs from her chickens. Like, why are you taking time out of my day to talk about this and like talk about how bad something, like how bad the state legislature is, like making it hard, talking about local control and all this. So then I started doing more research, and I like looking at the policies, and I realized like all the policies that they had that they're advocating for, like I was never asked if I believed in any of these policies. And I realized, like, man, I don't know if this is really representative of my own community.
You say them, yeah, I assume you mean the Texas Municipal League?
Yeah, TML. Yeah, 100%. Like, never once have, like these values don't represent my community. Like, they don't represent small businesses. It's like, why are we giving them money? There's multiple reasons. They do a lot for the cities, but we should not be using their money to pay for things that don't represent us. That maybe represent Austin very well, maybe represent San Antonio or Dallas very well, but doesn't represent small town Texas very well. Mm-hmm. And then another thing is like, they talk about like what, like, we ban taxpayer phone. You're going to lose representation. Every single time I had an issue from local government, like I either call my state senator or he calls me or vice versa. Like, every single time there's been an issue, just shoot a text, do a phone call. Like that is our job as local representatives, is to be able to advocate for our constituents in City Hall and in state legislature. Having those communications with state rep, with your state senator, like that is part of what we're elected to do, is to try to be able to make our city a better place. And we could do that by talking with our state reps and state legislatures. Like we would remove a lot of that bureaucratic, not necessary funds and be able to put more of that money back to taxpayers, right? If we just get rid of the middleman, we don't need someone in an ivory tower in Austin that's never been to my community to represent us. Like a councilman, a mayor, simply pull up the phone and just talk to their representative. Like that's what this republic was founded on, is having those sort of communications, not putting tax dollars, hard-earned tax dollars, by the way, to paying for someone that doesn't represent the values, that doesn't even know your community.
Well, Joel, that was well put. And on that note, thank you for your time in elected office, and thank you for your continued service as a taxpayer champion.
Thanks, man. And I appreciate all the work you're doing. Thank you. Thank you, Jose.